Well, Nintendo finally did it. They finally announced that they were going to announce the Switch 2. But now what? As it is tradition on this channel, it's the last Monday of the month. That means we get to go over everything that happened with the Nintendo in the month of May. There is literally so much that happened this month, it's not even funny, so I'll try my absolute best to keep it short and snappy and keep the train moving. That being said, let's roll right into the first section, so let's talk about the games that released this month. In April, Nintendo didn't even release a single game, but this month they kinda made up for it, releasing 2. At the very beginning of the month, on May 2nd, Nintendo releases Endless Ocean Luminous, the third installment in the franchise. I personally did pick up the game, however, I did not have the chance to play it yet. And as a Nintendo game collector, I don't necessarily mind if the game's just sitting on my shelf because I have a lot of games that are kinda just doing that anyways. But a game that I really do want to play is Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Doors that released on May 23rd. Although I really wanted one, I never had a GameCube as a kid, so a lot of these games I just completely missed out on, so I never played Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Doors before. And even though I do have a GameCube now, the games are pretty expensive, so I tried my best to find a good deal when possible, and I was never able to find the game for a price that I found to be reasonable. As I mentioned in my last video, it takes me around 1 hour one way to get to one of these game stores. So I haven't been able to pick it up yet, but I really can't wait to have a chance to get there to buy it. But if you have the game though, let me know down in the comments if you're enjoying it so far. With the games out of the way, let's move on to our next section about the new rumors that popped up this month. The first rumor comes from the one and only PRO, who teased something related to the Nintendo World Championship. Many people speculated many things. I personally thought it might be a NES remake for the Switch, even though PRO tweets very cryptically. The thing that is nice though is once they do tweet, you know that official confirmation from Nintendo will shortly follow. And this time what the tweet was referring to is that Nintendo was going to be releasing Nintendo World Championships NES Edition for Switch. And from the sounds of it, it's supposed to be pretty much exactly like the original NES edition of this game, where you just kind of have little challenges or things you have to do in the games and you try to find a way to do it as quickly as possible and you try to compete to have a better time. But unlike the NES edition, since we're in 2024, there'll be online leaderboards. The next rumor is one that not many people really talked about. Basically, people noticed that Nintendo had new trademarks filled for Kirby and the Rainbow Paintbrush and Stretchmo. And since we have official confirmation that a Nintendo Direct is looming in the month of June, people kinda just put 2 and 2 together and thought, hey, well, maybe we'll be seeing this in the Direct, and yeah, time will tell. The next rumor, however, is a little bit spicier. The rumor stems from a semi-reliable leaker by the name of Papagenos. In a semi-cryptic tweet, he kinda hints, by saying literally, this is a hint, that Nintendo is working on a new Legend of Zelda game starring Zelda. Of course, Zelda is technically a star in every game, but in this specific game, it's kind of hinted that she would be the playable character. I personally think that this is a great thing if it is true, because I feel like Nintendo has a lot of characters in all of their little universes they have, but we're always stuck playing with the same ones. So it would definitely be refreshing to see, a Zelda game where you actually get to be Zelda. And the last rumor is starting from a leaker by the name of Midori. Midori is considered to be one of the more reliable leakers, potentially even on the scale of PRO. However, they are technically more known for Persona leaks. Recently, however, they have been tweeting a lot about Nintendo, so I'm still kind of a little skeptic whether they'll become true or not. But for now, I guess I'll give them benefit of the doubt. Anyways, they leaked out that Nintendo is working on a game that is codenamed Banquet. The game would be developed by ND Cube and Smileboom, and people are interpreting this as though a new Super Mario Party, or Mario Party I guess I should say, is on the way. I personally have no thoughts or no clue what this could possibly be, so I guess only time will tell. And next is my favorite thing to discuss, the Switch 2 rumors. And baby, were there ever rumors and leaks this month. Finally, Nintendo finally put this discussion to rest. We may no longer discuss whether Switch 2 is real or not. They officially confirmed that it's on the way. I did kind of find it comedic though that they announced that they will be announcing the new console. But, I understand. Right now they have one more Direct with games to announce, so they definitely still do have some games up their sleeve, and I don't know, I just have this feeling that they probably have one more Switch variant in the works. For instance, maybe something like a Switch Mini, so a Switch that's the form factor and size of the Switch Lite but still has the docking capability. The whole point of this system would be to be so cheap that people that haven't been on board with the Switch yet basically have no more excuse. That of course is just, me speculating, nothing confirmed, no rumors, just me thinking out loud. And since the Switch 2 rumors were absolutely crazy this month, I'm gonna give you the TLDR of what was the outcome of it. In terms of power, the Switch 2 at first was looking to be closer to a PS4, but I think now the general consensus is it's probably going to be a little bit stronger than that, surprisingly, and closer to a PS4 Pro. After digging through the code for Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, it was discovered that the game is actually 4K compatible. And some people are interpreting this as confirmation that the Switch 2 could also be backwards compatible. But please bear in mind that this is still a rumor and not official confirmation, but it is looking likely like the system will be backwards compatible. And finally, and this is official by the way, Nintendo has said that they will continue to release information about the new console in phases. This of course is to build up hype around the new console, so a lot of people are saying like, hey, forget about it, we're only going to be hearing about this like basically March 31st, they're going to push it as far as they can. But I don't think that's the case. I think the next time we might see something of like really substantial, like maybe even seeing the console, might be around, I don't know, September, October-ish. Some people might say that that's completely wrong because how could they announce something before Christmas and it's going to, just the timing's horrible. But I actually have a whole video about the impact of timing for Switch 2, and I will have that tagged at the end of the video, so you guys should really check it out. But before we move on to the next section, I just want to make a really quick announcement. If this is your first time here, hey! My name's Akadrian and I post weekly Nintendo videos, so if you're into that, please consider liking and subscribing. And with that being said, let's go right back into the video. Now it's time for general Nintendo news, and now I divide it into two sections. First section is just rapid fire news, where I basically spitfire a bunch of things, no thoughts, just here's the facts, and then I go into longer stories. So let's start off with the rapid fire. First off, let's talk about the Nintendo Museum that is opening in Japan. Originally, it was supposed to be opened in March of 2024, clearly did not happen, but it has been delayed to fall of 2024 instead. Next, the Switch hit 123 million annual players. I feel like we're always talking about how well the Switch sold, but never actually how many people actively use their system, and that's why the console is so popular. Next, Level 5 CEO Akihiro Hino says he would like to make violent and erotic games someday. Okay, moving on. Next, the director of the Zelda movie says that he's going to go to the ends of the earth to make sure that the movie is good. The only thing I'd say here is good by whose metric. I personally think the movie's going to be fine, but I'm sure the day they post the first trailer on Twitter, there'll be plenty of opinions to read about. Next, Nintendo has nominated 4 people to join their board of directors, 3 in which are women, which is fantastic news, of course. Next, with the new Super Mario Bros. Movie coming out, there has been some talk on the internet about who could possibly play certain roles. One of which is Danny DeVito says he's open of voicing Wario in the Super Mario Bros. Movie 2. Nothing's confirmed, of course, but man, I think that would be such a good fit, but only time will tell, I guess. Next, President Furukawa said he's a huge fan of the Fire Emblem series. Hey, what can I say? The man has great taste. Next up, although it was predicted for a while, the Switch sales have finally surpassed the Nintendo DS sales in Japan. And for the last rapid fire news, Nintendo announces that they have plans to open a new Nintendo store in San Francisco, due to open in 2025, making it the second store in the US, the first one is in New York. Now with the rapid fire news out of the way, let's talk about the bigger stories now. The first story is actually kind of a sad story because Vicarious Visions was making a 3D Donkey Kong platformer game for the Switch. And the reason why it's sad is because it will only ever be because the project has been scrapped. This was discovered by Digino Gaming, and it was going to be a game that was going to take place on one big large open island. Which is such a shame because I feel like the concept for the game is going to be super fun. I know technically it's not like a Kirby situation where, Kirby in the Forgotten Land was the first time we ever saw Kirby in a 3D platformer. Donkey Kong already has one for the Nintendo 64, but I mean, that's been such a long time. Surely, if Nintendo were to, roll up their sleeves, or I should say Vicarious Vision in this case, to make a new 3D Donkey Kong game, I think it would be so cool. I know recently I've also been kind of on a kick of appreciation for Donkey Kong. I've never been like such a huge Donkey Kong fan per se, but I think a game like this could really put Donkey Kong on the map. Or I should say on the map again, because of course Donkey Kong is literally some of Nintendo's oldest IPs, even older than Mario, yet I feel like they don't give him that much attention anymore, which is kind of sad. Next, we're going to talk about Nintendo's financials. Alright, so we're going to take a step back and only look into the window of where the Nintendo Switch existed. So in this small window, in this over 100-year-old company, this small window holds more profit than all the other years combined. In which realistically, yeah, you write that in a headline, that's headline-worthy material, but when you think about it, selling full-priced games all the time, even for games that don't necessarily deserve it, you know? It doesn't shock me that their profits are through the roof. And I mean, historically, Nintendo owned sex hotels, and you know, they made vacuum cleaners, and there's a reason they don't do that anymore. And although those were two, you know, failed business ventures, it just goes to show that once you figure out what you're good at, I mean, look at them now. You can go really far with it. Next up, we had the news that on June 10th, so, you know, coming up soon, Nintendo is ending the Twitter support for the Switch. Personally, it's not a feature that I used much, but I know a lot of people really enjoyed this feature. And I don't think it's not that I don't think, I know it's not because Nintendo doesn't want to keep the feature, it's pretty much just Twitter, and I don't think we have to say about what's going on with Twitter. It's a mess. Apparently the lowest Twitter API, like, you know, the entry point for it is $42,000, and the most expensive is $210,000. Mind you, this is a month if I'm understanding correctly. And even though I literally just said how much money Nintendo has, I still don't blame them for, you know, cutting the service. Because at the end of the day, you know, money adds up, and I'm sure they can find much more value for their dollar doing some other project than using this service. The next story will require us to look a few years back. So I don't know if you guys remember when Nintendo had some class action lawsuits against them because of Joy-Con drift. Well, there were 3 of them. One was already dismissed a year or 2 ago, I don't quite remember. But the 2, you know, withstanding ones, the ones that were still active, have now been officially dismissed. I don't know, the funny thing I find about all of this is, you know, I feel bad for the people that really wanted this to go through, because I keep hearing a lot of people having a lot of, you know, hard times with Joy-Con drift. Some people even saying that they had to buy multiple, you know, pairs of Joy-Cons. I know I personally never really had that much issue with my Joy-Cons. To be honest, I had way more issues. I think I went through 3 PS4 controllers. But maybe I'm the only one. Let me know down in the comments if you guys had any issue with Joy-Con drift. But now all we can do is hope that, you know, in the next console, that this whole Joy-Con drift situation is resolved. The next story involves acquiring studios, and usually when we hear about studio acquisition, it's usually Xbox or PlayStation buying them and or shutting them down. But this time, Nintendo has acquired Shiver Entertainment. Some of their most latest work is the port for Hogwarts Legacy to Switch and Mortal Kombat 1 to Switch. But interestingly enough, apparently Shiver's focus will remain the same, and they're going to keep making ports for, you know, multiple different platforms, including Switch, but not just Switch. So I suppose if you really want to stretch the story, I guess now you can technically say that Nintendo does develop games for other consoles. And for the last story, we're going to talk about how apparently there's a new rumor, which I know technically this could have been in the rumor section, but I feel like it's more fitting to be here. Essentially, Nintendo has 2 big re-releases to launch on the current Switch after March of 2025. And I have a few thoughts on this. At first glance, a lot of people have been assuming that when you hear, you know, 2 big re-releases coming soon, they think of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Of course, these games have been rumored for a very, very long time and we still haven't seen them yet. But if you dig deeper and you actually listen to the source, which is PH Brazil, they say that these 2 games are supposed to be, one of these games is originally from the GameCube and the other one is a classic Nintendo 3DS title. With that information being said, technically the 2, you know, Zelda games we just discussed are GameCube games. So I suppose if it will be a double pack, it does fit in that category, but I'm wondering if it might actually be Luigi's Mansion, because for whatever reason, the Switch has Luigi's Mansion 3, then they released 2, I mean, they're missing 1, they just need Luigi's Mansion 1. So I think it would be really cool if it was that. And for the other game, for a classic Nintendo 3DS title, I don't know if you guys remember, but a while back, there was a rumor that the Kid Icarus Uprising game that was on the 3DS was supposed to have a port that was coming to Switch, and that never came to be. So fingers crossed that that's the case, but I don't know, it's just speculation at this point still, and we don't even know if this will come true. The only other hint that PH Brazil did say about this is that it probably won't be showed in the Nintendo Direct that's coming up in June, which means that if this is to come true, it's probably most likely going to be in the September Direct. At least those are my initial thoughts, just after hearing this. And here is when I turn to you guys. Considering that Nintendo already said that they're going to be releasing information about the new console in phases, when do you think the first phase of information will come live? Let me know down in the comments when you think there's going to be the first batch of information, but I personally think it's going to be around September, October, as I already mentioned. But with all that being said, if you made it all the way up to here, please consider liking and subscribing, and until next time, what on?